my daughter, I thought she was your daughter, but she's not. She's getting close. I think it's going to be before the end of the year. She's going to have this baby girl. It's not a baby girl. So I'll let every time that you guys know that. I think a little bit involved.
My parents know that. When I was young, it was like hard. Remember, I said, don't hanging out with the same lady this time. On the way to
I actually use
Nice to see you. It's been 20 years. I don't know.
I don't know.
Ron doesn't come. That's a bum.
I played power green until I made 3 years and I hurt all 3 years.
You were a good man. I remember that.
I left-handed, and at the very end I played third base for a while.
Well, that's a hot corner. No, you just stand Ironic. I remember it. Your mom probably were out there. Your mom probably was.
I was out there.
Know what I mean? I was there. We were the Sunday morning. Started about mid-90s. By then he was thick. But your mom used to come on Sunday morning for watch.
Yeah.
Your mom wanted to go. She didn't. She had to stay already.
When I said I'm sure, yeah, I better watch it.
You went out to the place up. Underline? I saw him out
Oh yeah.
How long was he on the park?
2 terms and
So before that.
The laptop's here in a minute.
No, we didn't move. I'm glad I read it. I don't know if anybody else is. I think
Yeah, I tried to see
Oh, it was. Oh, hi.
Stacy Herbstad.
Her brother.
So sorry. Pleasure to met again.
He's one of the younger guys. His dad and all that.
Are you? That's so awesome.
Almost 40 years ago. Let's see. Next year, so it'll be 40 years ago.
We started when we were 16 over at home. I did not know
My middle name is Jeffrey.
I didn't have no idea. So the other
So do we indicate to people who are joining us online that we're running a little behind? It's not your job, right?
You were a regular.
It's 11:30 now. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know we're running a little bit behind. We'll be starting the service probably in about under 10 minutes. Thank you for your patience.
You were there? Now, so if I give you a picture of it, they don't explain it. That was 11. Sorry, oh no. Yeah, you almost played one. I know a lot of people do that.
All about my father and son.
Daryl.
Well, who played shortstop?
Mark.
And his son.
Yes. He hasn't been. I've been trying to talk to him about. Yeah, no, he lives in California. Oh, you remember him? Yes, I do. How would you forget something like this? Oh,
also wasn't too regular. My dad, sometimes 3 dinners, a couple times a year. We didn't get the credit card until the last quarter was, it's
I was telling Ron, I wish I'd known him as a pride. He was smart. I know he was good. You could just tell when I played with him in his 80s. He was good. You could tell. He pitched, he could run.
He joined us in the 70s. I got videos of him playing in the mid-70s. You didn't see those videos? Well, probably didn't ever see it.
98? You know what? He's still like a fella. He's a guy 98 years old. They started giving some quick
What did you?
But you forget that you can come, or you go see him. Next day you'll say, when are you going to come see me? What is remember his honeymoon here? Years ago, but he don't remember. Right.
I remember the best softball game.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm telling you those stories of betting with the neighborhood kids. Jewish guys.
The championship game, he said they forgot their bats. Their team had their bats. They got this kid, they had that little bat you get a souvenir. That's what he said. They used that bat and they won like 2-1 or something.
I don't know.
It's hard to believe that. I know it is. Yes.
Yeah, hi. Yeah. Oh, yes, yes. Someone me? Well, maybe I play ball. You play basketball. So you know that family? From this side? Yeah.
We're a lot older.
You never played for softball, with him? With him? Where
Oh, yeah. Somewhere, right? That's right. You guys were so jerky to swing once in a while. I saw him strike out a couple guys in the swing, which is so unusual. And they were she would like that. People look at that. Yeah. Exactly. I got some,
I haven't seen anyone since the service delayed due to technical
So go ahead and start service now. You're welcome to either sit.
When I'm alone, as when my every deed is known that I have made, to be without pretense or sham, exactly what men think I am, to leave some simple mark behind, to keep my having lived in mind, to play my little part, not whine that greater honors are not mine. This, I believe, is all I need for my philosophy and creed. I think everyone who knew her would agree he didn't leave just a simple mark behind. And he wasn't someone about bragging about all his athletic abilities and talents, right? He was a man who was humble, and we'll talk more about all of his wonderful qualities. Regardless of how many years a person has been granted, and he was granted a lot of years, so many wonderful years. I think when we gather for an occasion such as this, it's final. And no matter how we feel, we all understand that none of us are going to live forever, but we want more time. We want to be together for more holidays, more years together. And so many look for comfort and often find comfort when turning to the book of Psalms. The Silent Night, I will lift up mine eyes unto the mountains. From whence shall my help come? My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel doth neither slumber nor sleep. Turning to your service folders, and if you have not received a service folder, those of you sitting at the table or wherever, just raise your hand and one will be brought to you, as we will be referring to this service folder throughout our service. The 23rd Psalm, I think, is a psalm that speaks to all of us, regardless of our faith. So let us all, even those of you joining us remotely, let's all join together in reciting the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Herb was blessed with a family who loved him so very much and whom he loved so very much. Not everyone has that. An unknown author wrote a beautiful poem about it. It's entitled The Greatest Gift. One of the greatest gifts that life can give to anyone is the very special love that families share. As years go by, it's good to know that there will always be certain people in our lives who care. For there are countless things that only families have in common, and memories that no one else can make. And these precious ties that bind a family together are bonds that time and distance cannot break. How fortunate we are when we have relatives to love us. It makes the world a happy place to be. Few gifts in life will last as long or touch the heart as deeply as the very special gift of family. It's my great honor to call upon Paul, who has a few words he'd like to share about his dad.
Thank you for coming, everyone. I have some thoughts, some connected, some less. 3 lessons I learned from my dad since he passed. One was notice my negative thoughts. When the nurse called me to tell me my dad had died, I was shocked, as he was in relatively good shape. I remember just before that moment, I was lamenting on how challenging it was going to be to take him to a doctor's appointment. He would be ornery, and the transport would be difficult. I never imagined that that would be my thought the moment I learned of his death. It taught me to pay attention to where my mind goes, to soften the edges of my thinking, and to choose a kinder, more hopeful internal voice. The second lesson was to be aware of attachments. When his room was cleared out instead of cleaned out, there came a second wave of grief. A grief tied to physical things that held pieces of his memory. The maintenance staff, a day after he passed away, thought instead of cleaning the room, they cleared everything. Memories and journals and photos. Since then, they've retrieved much of that. A beautiful reminder that nothing material is guaranteed to remain. What matters most stays inside of us. And number 3, always listen to your big sister. On the day he passed, my sister Stace told me, take the paintings and the rug. These were valuable items. And I was smart and I said yes, because she didn't trust that they would be safe, and she was correct. So sometimes the wisest thing I can do is to always listen to my big sister. My dad taught me to love your family. He adored my mom, and they did everything together. The relationship was a master class in loyalty and in companionship. They loved to run errands and pick up a box of whatever, and a box of Kleenex, or let's go to the store and buy a pen. My dad taught me to eat slowly. I'm still working on that one. And even if there's a whole box of cookies in front of you, my dad told me it was okay to just enjoy one. And savoring things, not rushing, not grabbing more than you need. And he taught me to play for the sake of playing. Not to win, not to prove anything, but simply because play brings joy. And joy is reason enough. These lessons were simple, but they shaped me, and they stay with me every day. If you love a color, love red. My dad loved red. My dad never cared much about expensive things, but once in his life he splurged and he bought himself a Rolex. He kept the box and papers carefully, always mindful of preserving its value. When he eventually gave me the watch, I had it refurbished. The watchmaker paused and examined it and said, I've worked on Rolex watches for years, and I have never seen a... Turns out, my dad had the secondhand painted after he bought it. Something no one ever does to Rolexes. And yes, it technically devalued the watch. The one item he thought was going to have value. But that red secondhand made it his, unique, unmistakable, and full of his personality. I later passed that watch on to my son Jacob. Its monetary value may have dropped, but its meaning has only grown. It's now a one-of-a-kind heirloom, carrying a bit of my dad's spirit from his wrist to mine, and now Jacob's. 2 events capture so much of who my dad was and where he came from. The first one was my grandpa taught him to drive a car. They drove together to the L station in the city, and when they arrived, Grandpa stepped out of the car shut the door, and simply said, "I'll see you when you get home." And then he got up and took the train home. And my dad was left 5 miles, never driving a car, 5 miles from his home with keys. And my dad was left alone, no instructions, no hand-holding, just trust. That was the real lesson in independence, and he carried that confidence for the rest of his life. The second was the year he won the 16-inch softball championship in the city of Chicago, a tournament with more than 400 teams. Sporting event that nowadays we almost never have that many teams. To rise above that many players, that many nights under the lights, that much competition, it meant something. It was one of the great athletic joys of his life, and a story he told with pride, but also with the humility of someone who simply loved the game. Finally, a bit of a poem, The Last Swing. On August 13th, 2023, 2 months before his 96th birthday, I took my dad to the ballpark one more time. He didn't go to watch. He went to belong to the game again. When the players asked if he wanted a swing, he said yes without a second thought. That was my dad. Always ready, always willing, always game for life. He walked to the plate slowly, but his eyes were young. He lifted the bat, took his swing, lost his balance, and fell. When he stood back up, he brushed off the dust and said, "Okay, I'm done. This game is over for me." It broke my heart because I knew he wasn't just talking about softball. But at that moment, that last swing was pure dad. Brave, hopeful, always stepping forward, even when his body tried to hold him back. He could have quit decades ago, but he kept playing as long as he could lift the bat, as long as he could feel the joy of being part of the game. That final swing wasn't an ending, it was his spirit, still showing up, still reaching, still alive in the moment he loved most. And I will carry that swing in my heart for the rest of my life. I love you, Dad.
I now have the great honor to read some beautiful, heartfelt words from Herb's granddaughter, Carrie. Today we gather to honor a man who was incredibly special to each of us. For me, he was the grandfather I didn't grow up with, but was lucky enough to gain later in life. I joined this family while I was in college, when my dad and Stacy married. I not only gained a stepmom, but a brother and 2 grandparents. Both Bobby and Herb could have easily kept a polite distance, the way people sometimes do when life blends families together. But they never did. From the moment I joined the family, I was welcomed with total acceptance, kindness, and a real interest in getting to know me. One of my favorite memories was going downtown to see Shakespeare. I was an English literature major in college, and both Bobby and Herb were thrilled that I enjoyed watching Shakespeare with them. Having dinner after the shows, discussing the various plays we watched, were some sweet memories that I will cherish. But the moment that will stay with me for the rest of my life happened on one of our family's darkest days, the day my oldest son was diagnosed with cancer. I remember walking to the lobby and finding Herb, Bobby, and Paul sitting there, offering strength, support, and love. Showing up for me and my little family when we needed support the most. I will miss Herb's crazy stories and that sparkle in his eye when he would tell a hilarious story from the past, from his past. He was a special man and will be missed by many. And now it's my great honor to call upon Jacob, one of his grandsons.
Thank you everyone for being here. Can you hear me if I don't talk into this thing? I'm not that tall anyway. Okay. So when I was applying to, I'm going off script here, but then I have a script. When I was applying for college, I had to write an entrance essay, and the first essay, draft of an essay I wrote about my grandpa. It wasn't really about me and my grandpa. It was mostly just about my grandpa. I was well told that while this is a wonderful tribute to your grandpa, it might not, it might not help you get into college. But I ended up sharing that with my grandma and grandpa, and they read it, and I got a nice email back from him that it was very meaningful to him. So this week I was trying to find that old essay, and I couldn't find it. So I did some of my own writing on Wednesday. I actually wasn't intending to share it. I was open to sharing, but I wrote it for myself, but I shared it with my dad, but I think in the spirit of my grandpa, a great storyteller, I would honor him by telling it. So, okay, so one of my favorite memories with my grandpa is about Rico, not the racketeering and something corruption act. My grandpa was not involved in the mafia or in prosecuting the mafia as far as I know, although he actually did have a really good story about the Chicago mafia, but I won't tell that one today. So Rico is actually the name of a baseline out-of-bounds basketball play that my 4th grade Park District basketball team ran with a very high rate of success. It featured 3 players lined up side by side on the free throw line, facing the baseline, and 1 player standing behind them at the top of the key. And then when the player taking the ball out of bounds slapped the ball, the 2 players on either side would crisscross behind the guy in the middle who set a screen, and then the end result would be a bunch of 10-year-olds kind of bumping into each other at the free throw line, and 2 of those 10-year-olds wide open underneath the basket to make a free throw, or not a free throw, a layup. We ran Rico many times that season on the way to winning an unofficial league championship. So my grandpa drew up that play for us as he coached that team alongside my dad. I'm sure there have been other grandparents who have coached their grandkids' sports teams, but I don't remember seeing a lot of that while I was growing up. My grandpa was a highly qualified youth basketball coach. He was an all-city basketball player, and before going to Notre Dame to walk onto their basketball team, only to be drafted into World War II shortly before the war ended. He loved basketball. And he loved a lot of other things too. He loved 16-inch softball, a very popular sport in Chicago. And there will be some overlap here, and we'll get good review. We got a lot of review from his stories, so 2 repetitions here will be okay. He continued to play consistently into his 80s, taking his last swing in his mid-90s, and was ultimately enshrined in the 16-inch softball Hall of Fame. He loved his job. He majored in journalism, but ended up spending a good part of his career working for an insurance company. While this was not an industry or career that is stereotypically well-liked, he loved it. And as he would circulate some of his famous work stories at family gatherings, it was clear how much life he brought to and derived from seemingly ordinary situations. As his grandson, I don't remember my grandpa giving a lot of advice, but one piece of advice he gave to my dad, which was then imparted to me, was that given that you'll spend a very large portion of your waking hours at work, some maybe even more hours than with your family at times, you better love your job or else you're going to be miserable a lot of the time. My dad and I have done our best to follow his advice. My grandpa even claimed to love commuting. I remember my grandpa telling us about how he used to love taking the train to work and reading the newspaper on the ride. Loving and commuting are not supposed to go together, but for my grandpa, they did. My grandpa loved his friends. He had a breakfast club where he'd meet consistently with his old friends, deep into his older years. Sadly, I think he outlived most of those friends. He and his oldest friend, Ray, were friends since kindergarten. One of the saddest but most beautiful memories I have in my life was at my grandma's funeral after the service at the grave, and I saw Ray slowly walking over to my grandpa to embrace him. That is what friends are for. My grandpa loved his family too. He loved my dad and my aunt and me and my cousins and the rest of our family. In his last few years, as he required a lot more help from my dad and my aunt, I could feel the gratitude and love he had for his children. My grandpa loved to take his time. He'd take his time telling his famous stories, and he'd take his time as he ate. I don't think I ever saw him finish a sandwich, and he would take twice as long to finish half a sandwich as I would take to eat my entire sandwich. He also used to keep a pack of Keebler fudge sticks in his fridge and would take his time to enjoy just one a day. For much of our lives, the reason behind my grandpa's slow eating was a mystery to me and my dad. But my dad asked him about it a couple years ago, and my grandpa actually shared with my dad a piece of advice from my grandpa's dad, which was I wasn't talking into that thing. If you hurry your food, you hurry your grave. My grandpa didn't hurry either of those things. My grandpa, this will be a hard one to get through. My grandpa loved my grandma. My grandma had a stroke in the spring of 2021, and it significantly changed her. I remember having dinner with them and my dad and Aunt and Uncle around Thanksgiving that fall. And my grandpa had either bought or made my grandma a bracelet. I think it was a red bead bracelet. But at that dinner, he stood by her to give it to her. And I remember my grandma being confused by it instead of warmly accepting the gift. I had never felt something like this before, but I felt like my heart was being warmed and broken at the same time. And I could also see how this hurt my grandpa. He was in pain, but he had a gift to give, so he persisted in giving it to her. So it's not merely the giving of a gift, but the expression of a love to which I owe my own existence, and the love that I can aspire to show for my wife and my family. Growing up, when speaking to me, my grandpa would, as expected, refer to my grandma as grandma. But these last few years after she passed away, he would often refer to me as my wife. He missed her so dearly. I can't fully understand how he felt. I think I'm too young, but I know he will always love her. My grandpa was such an incredible athlete during his life, so it was hard to see the process of his aging lead him to describe the walk from his room to his elevator as a 200-yard dash. Sometimes he would have my aunt or my dad or someone else or me with him walking on that 200-yard dash, but I know that he also made that walk by himself many times. I imagine he felt very lonely during some of those walks without my grandma, yet he kept making them in a way that I can only describe as heroic. My grandpa, was not a famous man, and he did not aspire to become one. But he lived a long, loving, and happy life. And the manner in which he pitched, coached, commuted, worked, ate, story told, dashed, and loved his friends, family, and his wife are a shining example for how I want to live my life.
I think we can all feel how loved her was by all of you, but especially these beautiful words that we heard shared. There were a few additional memories that the family shared with me that I'll just add to what we've heard already. Clearly, we're thankful to his parents, Louis and Francis, for giving him life. He was a wonderful son. He was a wonderful brother to Bud and to the late Russ, a wonderful brother-in-law to Susan and Iris. He was blessed to have so many relatives and friends dating back even to kindergarten that he kept in touch with. This breakfast club gave him great joy. He went to actually the University of Oklahoma, and he loved those teams, and he would love to watch and cheer on those teams. He was, as we all know, a wonderful athlete and a lover of sports. He chose to raise his family and live across the street from a park. That was important to him. And he was also the commissioner in Skokie, the park commissioner, and he attended annual conventions. Who knew that they had annual conventions for park? I never knew that, for park commissioners. And he would often take the family with him, and that was memorable and fun. There were many trips that the family remembered, how he and Bobby would travel every year to Stratford, Canada for the Shakespeare plays. There were trips he took to Israel and Turkey and Eastern Europe, a California family trip, going to the Springfield County Fair to go on an Alaska cruise. Wow. And most recently, the trip to Vegas for the Super Bowl. I'm not a huge understanding person of football, but I do watch the Bears, but I'm gonna hopefully get this right. I love that he made this small bet, like $20, that the game would end with the safety. You all know what this means, right? They explained it to me. Well, if you don't know, you'll learn about it while you're eating. And I mean, that's rare, right, to end a game, but that's what happened. So his $20 bet, he earned a lot, he made a lot of money. So that's, cool, right? He enjoyed football, pool, right, and gambling in that way. But there are so many stories. I mean, if somebody's blessed with this many years of life, I mean, almost 100 years, right? 98, right? That's a long life. And yes, you guys would be patient to continue to hear his stories that he would like to repeat and tell them slowly. And, but you were often in these stories. You had times to be with him where you got to travel together, or you laughed together. You ate a meal and you tried to be patient as he would take his time eating the meal. You played together. How many people had the opportunity to play softball, 16-inch softball with him? Yeah, right? Watch him play, right? I mean, what a joy when you can find something that gives you great pleasure, and to be able to play well into his life, as we heard from Jacob, right? That, a lot of much younger than him would break an ankle or break a knee or, tear something. No, not him. Right? So I don't know what his magic was, if he was just blessed with, luck. Eating slowly maybe had something to do with it. I don't know. But he did teach you many valuable lessons. And I hope that you know how loved you were, how much joy you brought to his life. You all know how much he added to your life. He was truly a wonderful and devoted husband and father, grandfather, great-grandfather, uncle, relative, and friend. Many of us believe that one spirit, one soul can live on l'dor vador, from generation to generation. Many of us believe this is possible by those of us who are still alive. As long as we are alive, we continue to speak about her and share the memories and the stories. I hope that you'll document, all of you who have these memories, document them, write them down. I'm not so sure a piece of paper is going to go out of style anytime in our lifetime, although I could be wrong. And we know technology is always changing. So find a variety of ways to document your memories so that one day when Herb's great-grandchildren, right, the Aiden, Chloe, and Mason, when they grow up one day and have children of their own, that they will know about this wonderful, loving man who lived his life fully with great joy and blessings. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the memory of the righteous, is forever a blessing. And to that we say, Amen. Joey Bailey wrote, "Fill not your heart with pain and sorrow, but remember me in every tomorrow. Remember the joy, the laughter, the smiles. I've only gone to rest a little while. Although my leaving causes pain and grief, my going has eased my hurt and given me relief. So dry your eyes and remember me, not as I am now, but as I used to be, because I will remember you all and look on with a smile. Understand in your hearts, I've only gone to rest a little while. As long as I have the love of each of you, I can live my life in the hearts of all of you." I invite you to turn once again to your service folders. Underneath the 23rd Psalm, you find El Maleh Rachamim. It is customary to rise for this prayer and the following prayer on the back cover, the Mourner's Cottage. Please rise.
חדשים ודורים, כזוהר רקיע מזהירים את נשמת הרשולבו שהלך לעולמו. הרחמים יסתירו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים. בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני ונחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן. Let us read the translation of Amale Rachamim together. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to her spirit, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We remain standing as we turn to the back cover of our service folder, where we find the mourner's cottage. Many believe that this prayer speaks about death, as we always recite it at a funeral, a memorial service, a dedication. There is actually no reference to death. Rather, this prayer speaks about life and hope and peace. It speaks about God's glory and omnipotence. Many find the Hebrew challenging, even the transliteration often challenging. So I offer you a third option. We say the word amen or amen several times throughout the prayer. It's a form of affirming what these words mean. I will nod my head when those times come, so at least you can participate with an amen or amen. Let us join together in exalting God's name with these traditional words of the mourner's cottage. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Amen. Bi'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imeru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mivarach le'olam u'lamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'alma v'imeru. Amen. Yehei shalama rabbah min shamaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. May the author of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us. And to that we say, Amen. Please be seated. It will be my great honor tonight at Congregation Ahabat in Glenview, who meet at 7:30, and I add Herb's name to our cottage list. You're welcome to join us if you are so inclined. The Glenview New Church is where we meet. So our hearts again go out to Herb's whole family and cherish all your wonderful memories of him.
I think
Everybody wants to know what did the $20 bet pay?
$1,000.
Thank you, because it was driving me crazy.
Another part of the story was, how old was he?
Well, high 80s, but I never saw him in jump on his bed, so he's so happy.
When he won it?
Oh God, he was jumping up and down, I was afraid he might fall.
Was it that the last score would be a safety or?
Last
would
score.
end with a
The last score.
Amazing.
That's a cost.
I was just driving me crazy, right?
I didn't bet, but I did.
Yeah, well, I think next time I don't ever bet sports, bet everything else. But anyways, I would give you all directions to the Shiva, but we're here. So thank you all for coming, and please enjoy the Shiva and celebrate his life. There's some photos up here that will be going during the Shiva if you haven't seen them yet. And again, thank you all for coming.